All right. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. All praises to the Most High. Tonight we're doing a live, and I have the pleasure to have my brother Sean up here. He is the father of the late Brion Teel Scott, who was killed this year, February 2022, at a military base in Albuquerque, New Mexico, by 6 military police officers. They shot him a total of 17 or more times while he was laying on the ground, firing a total of 80 shots. And Mr. Sean, he has been fighting for justice for his son. And I've decided to come on and let him come on and share what he has been going through with this situation. Now, if you're not familiar with this situation, let me just play a little bit of the previous video I did about it so we can kind of bring you up to speed on what really happened. And he's going to give you some intimate details on his son's situation. Just watch this video and we'll be right back.
A confrontation between an airman and military police turned deadly. Earlier this year, those officers shot and killed the airman after a chase, and now we're getting a first look at what Albuquerque police saw after those gunshots rang out. News 13's Bella Olage has details.
The late-night chase ended just down the street from this base entrance here on Gibson back in February. APD says things escalated when the suspect and military police exchanged gunfire, resulting in the death of 28-year-old Brion Teel Scott. Police arrived to a chaotic scene February 22nd at around 2 a.m.
That sun right there is all gas.
Albuquerque police officers found a man later identified as Airman Brion Teel Scott, dead in a driveway of an apartment complex near the Truman Gate of Kirtland Air Force Base. They saw shattered car windows and bloodstains, and officers started evacuating nearby buildings because bullets had caused a gas leak. Several officers moved Teel Scott's body away from the gas leak to check out his wounds. Military personnel and people working in nearby businesses recounted what led up to the shootout.
These guys ended up saying that this male adult, this DNA, pulled up into their gate, and he is a military man. He does have credentials, and that something went wrong.
We heard the gunshots, so we were just taking an order.
My understanding is you're the actual shooter, correct?
We all shot, sir. But
what's that?
We all shot.
Okay. Who's we all?
Everyone that's in uniform, like everyone.
APD says it started when Kirtland security forces noticed Teel Scott's vehicle registration had expired. That prompted the military officers to search his car at the Truman Gate.
Well, he was already getting agitated and mad that he had to wait there. So I guess when they were doing an inventory check before they impounded his vehicle, they found the marijuana.
When they told Teel Scott he would be detained,
and that's whenever he took off from his buddy's vehicle, they came to pick him up, and they ended up following him over here.
7 military police officers chased after Teel Scott on foot.
And the guy I spoke with said that he saw him racket, and he's like, I'm not going to jail for this and that. And
what's up,
he fired first.
APD says Teel Scott shot at the officers, and one was hit and wounded. Then officers returned fire and killed Teel Scott. Kirtland Air Force Base reiterated today that they recognize the public's concern about this shooting. They say they, quote, urge the community to avoid drawing conclusions based on preliminary accounts. Bella Olage, KRQE, News 13.
All right. Peace and blessings. All right. Okay, so I'm back. Let me cut that off real quick. And once again, I thank y'all for joining. Once again, I have Brion Teel Scott's father. Now, we heard that the media's narrative. Now, he's going to give you some details, and I'm also going to share you some details about what really happened. So when you're listening to that story they presented, and I know you've been living this for the past 10 months. First of all, thank you as well for coming and trying to keep your son's legacy, trying to write that legacy. So when you hear what they're saying about it, what do you say to that narrative? Like, what facts that you have to disprove all of that narrative? Go ahead and
Yes, sir. Well, hey, Mr. Teller. Well, first and foremost, once again, man, I want to thank you, man, for inviting me on the show. I love my son. I love my son to death, and my son was good people. He was great people. He was a great guy. He was a great friend. He was a great son. He was going to be a great father. Only 9 months in fatherhood. So thanks again, man, for having me on your show, Mr. Teller. I greatly appreciate it. Been trying to get this information, trying to get live. Got a surprise for you at the end of the show. Basically, going Aaron, to answer your question about the narrative is all lies, and anyone that give me time to explain it, I prove that it's all been lies. We still don't even know to this day. I'm sure that my son never fired a weapon. We're not even sure if he produced a weapon. According to the medical examiner's office, his hands was sent to the medical examiner's office in paper bags taped up. He had North Face gloves on, winterized gloves. You're going to stick that in the trigger weld of a 9mm? There's no GSR on them gloves. There's no GSR on his hands. There's no evidence no evidence.
Have they released that evidence from you, like for as far as gunshot residue? Have they released that or are they being...
That, Mr. Teller, that's in the medical examiner report. The Air Force haven't released anything. The attorney filed a FOIA to get the information from the Air Force side of the investigation. The only thing that we have is the investigative portion from Albuquerque PD. So everything from the time you see on that one video, my son running out the gate until after his death. That's all the information that we have as of today. We pieced it together pretty good when we went out there 2 days after the killing. And all our assumptions when we went out there, like I said, it was myself and 2 other prior service military personnel and 4 males that's all either retired law enforcement or present law enforcement. We went out there, we went over that scene for 4 days, day and night. We went out there twice a day. We were an hour off the airplane and didn't even check into where we were staying and went straight to the crime scene. The crime scene was totally cleaned up like there was never a crime scene. So they did a pretty good job. All them bullet holes in that green wall there, that green wall was repainted. And as you see, the red bag there with the bleach and stuff out, it's my son's birthday. So I don't know if he was doing laundry the next day, but I have that backpack right here with me.
And also, a lot of people have said, if y'all look right above that backpack, that is the firearm that they allege he had. And a lot of people who have looked at it said that looks conspicuously placed right there. You know,
yes, sir. Mr. Teller, what I can tell you is that in the police and Albuquerque PD's own police report, they state the scene looks unnaturally staged. The scene looks unnaturally staged. From where they carrying his body at is far from where the gun is at.
Yeah, and so that's one thing I did want to play, but I don't think that they'll let me play that. I can play it in another video because they actually had to move his body away from this scene right here, where they had hit they had fired so many shots that they hit that gas main right there. They had to evacuate the building.
And if you check, and the crazy thing is that a pool of blood is in 2 parts. That's not even that picture right there is not even
where he was shot.
Facts. Where he laid at.
And I got that picture too, actually, because this is the scene right here. Now that black where it's blacked out, I think that's where your son is laying after they drug him from where they initially shot. Because I got the photos, and I won't play it, of course, you know what I mean? So he was actually shot in front of that first view. Right?
I'm of the I think
right here.
I think he was shot to the driver's side.
Okay. Yeah.
To the driver's side, because there's a bigger pool of blood in those photos.
Let me see if I can pull that one up.
Basically what your all those yellow cones, those are basically the shell casings. So basically where they stood at while they were shooting at my son.
Okay, so
Yes.
those are where their shell casings were dropped.
And on top of that, not to skip too far into the story, there's a couple unfired bullet casings on the driver's side of the SUV. Okay, those are also in the crime scene photos as well. So, like I said, once again, if you're a shooter and you have a gun malfunction, so they said that they didn't start shooting until they heard a click. Now, the lieutenant, now you're in charge. Now he's 20-something years old, but you're still a lieutenant. So it doesn't matter if the sergeant major, I don't know if they have sergeant majors in the Air Force. It doesn't matter if a sergeant major is on that scene. If you're a lieutenant, you're in charge. He had no control over his people. Brion is talking to him. He states in the police report that my son told him 7 times, you guys don't have jurisdiction to chase me off the base. I'll turn myself into the PD when they show up. Okay.
All right.
And there's a point there's a point in there where they state that he was coming out. And as he decided to come out, all of a sudden you hear a click. If you're in law enforcement, this is why the military has no business even coming off the base acting as local law enforcement, because you don't know the rules. They didn't know. They killed my son. They didn't provide no CPR for him after they pumped all them bullets in there. That's another factor that hasn't been spoken about. And everyone knows that if you shoot somebody, you hit them with pepper spray, you have to offer them a shower. You have to give them CPR until a certified EMT comes to relieve you. They did none of that. They did none of that.
And going back to what you're saying, go ahead.
No, but we was getting to the lieutenant. So my son, so we're talking about the gun here. So the gun, so what you're saying is that my son was giving up. This is what the lieutenant said in his written report, and he's on body camera footage trying to change his written report. But he says that that my son yelled to them 7 times, you guys don't have jurisdiction to chase me off the base. I'll turn myself into the local PD when they get here. Okay. Then there's a portion in the police report where the lieutenant stated that, hey, my son is coming out. So Brion is coming out. He's giving up. And all of a sudden, when he's giving up, you guys hear a click as if a gun is misfiring. But that's funny that a gun is misfiring because there's a bunch of military rounds on that ground that's unfired. And the first thing that they teach you, level 1 gun malfunction, you tap the bottom of the magazine, then you go to fire. If the gun don't fire, a level 2 jam, you tap the magazine again, and then you rack a new round. That's probably why the military rounds is out there on the ground. You rack a new round.
So are you trying to say their guns jammed when they were shooting him so many times?
Yes, sir. That's exactly what I'm saying. And
so
you don't have justification. So, sir, if you don't have justification to use deadly force, okay? So in order for them to use deadly force, my son has to shoot at them first. The lieutenant is in the written police report saying that he didn't see a gun in my son's hand, and my son was verbalizing with him. So all of a sudden, when he goes to come out, now you hear a click, sir. You said you didn't see my son with a gun. That gun malfunction or that gun misfiring, that could have been your people. Judging by rounds that's unfired on the ground out there, that was your people with the misfire. And
also,
one other thing. Yes,
there was two conflicting reports from the people who were there saying, well, he didn't fire, he just he brandished the gun. You know, we saw the gun, or he raised the gun. Then somebody, like you said they heard a click or whatever.
That's what the lieutenant said. That's what the lieutenant said while they started firing, and he fired too. So, but you said you didn't see a gun. You didn't see a gun, so how you fire if you don't see a gun?
All right, so for those that don't, I guess, know how the situation started, explain how the situation started.
So basically, what they're stating is that Brion was driving on a base. It was his birthday. It's a little bit past midnight, and he was just going on base allegedly to pick up some friends and then leave back off the base. Okay. Before we get into that, Mr. Teller, okay. They saying that they saying that the pullover started because of
expired
license plate registration. Okay, I interviewed a couple of the kids out there that's in security forces. So apparently they have two entities in security force. One is a law enforcement side, and I think one is a security side. Okay. So I spoke to one of the people out there that's on the law enforcement side, and they say their jurisdiction ends 50 feet past that ID gate. Okay. 50 feet past that ID gate. From the ID gate to where my son's body ended, we're talking almost 180 yards, if not more. So you're 130 yards past your jurisdiction. But what I was told yesterday is military on military, and they can go beyond that. They can go beyond that base. Okay. I was always under the understanding, I've been out the military 25 years, but that section where they killed my son at is not considered base housing. You can come off the base to go in base housing, but military on military, or you can go off base and act as local police when you don't know all the rules. So allegedly this started over an expired registration. So they used this night, they used the expired registration to tow the vehicle. Wink. So in order to tow the vehicle, we have to search the vehicle. Okay. And their claim is that during that search, they found the marijuana. Once again, here's his backpack here. Smell-proof backpack that he had on his person. So why would you put a couple baggies of marijuana under all that boxing equipment in his trunk, unscrew the spare tire, just to put a few baggies of marijuana in the back when you have a bag that's smell-proof? Who are idiots here? Okay.
So did they ever produce this alleged Mary Jane?
In the police report, Mr. Teller, one of the officers asked them to show them the cell phone with a picture of the marijuana. It was not produced.
A cell phone with the picture, like every time I've got in trouble, they had the actual substance there.
Yeah, the police officer, one of the police officers doing the written report, and it's in that 24-page police report. The officer asked them to produce the photo of the cell phone with the picture of the marijuana, and they didn't. Okay, so basically, after that, we're talking about where did my son run from? Because they keep saying detention. From a legalese standpoint, what terminology, what constitute a detention? So how was my son detained if he was able to get away from y'all? A proper detainment is surrounding him or escorting him out the vehicle, placing him in custody, either have him sit on, we've seen it hundreds of times. You detaining them, not arresting them, you sit them on the sidewalk, you search the vehicle. That's not. So we don't know where Brion ran from, because in the police report, it stayed in two different places. The lieutenant say my son took off from the visitor center. Others say he took off from a friend's car. When he realized his car was getting towed, he called one of his friends. Now that friend right there, they've been hiding him since day one.
So you haven't had a chance to speak to him?
No. And I found the guy. He's supposed to be the gentleman that he called to pick him up was supposed to also be the gentleman that sold him the gun, which they called me the Friday before Father's Day during the investigation that they were giving the gun back to the original owner. How do you give a gun back that's still, it's an ongoing investigation? How are you returning this gun prior to an ongoing investigation? That's supposed to be part of the evidence. Where's the chain of evidence at? Why is this bag in New Jersey? And these guys called me yesterday making a so-called determination on the case, but we have evidence right here. Oh, Mr. Scott, we have pictures. That's what one of the lead investigator told me. Oh, we have pictures. Do you have pictures of this blue label? Do you have pictures of this blue label stating that is a smell-proof backpack? So where's those pictures at? So basically, they saying that they detained my son and he took off running. That wasn't official. That wasn't an official. By the letter of the law, by letter of the verbiage, that's not an official detention. He shouldn't have had no avenues of escape.
Let me play this real quick. I know you said it was kind of hard for you to watch, but I do want the people to see what they're claiming that he was running from. Hold on real quick. Let me play this.
And that's not even all the body cam footage, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, it's not, because it doesn't. Yeah, it should be way more than this right here. This is the footage that they claim that our young brother was running from. And you can see how he was running.
That's the tow truck coming to get his vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a hard watch, man. But you know.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, if you guys see some of the footage that I've seen, and I think I'm gonna try to implement that in later videos as much as I can. So that's him running across the street.
Yeah,
like
What? Hold up, Mr. Teller.
Okay, hold on.
With the backpack on. And,
okay. Let me go back.
And you know what he wearing on his feet? He wearing UGG slippers.
Okay, let's see.
Slippers.
We can stop it right here again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he looks at that camera is a city camera. When I first got there, that's the first thing that I photographed and videotaped when I got there on the scene 3 days after my son was murdered.
And so
he got UGG slippers on, North Face gloves on, and his backpack. That's
you right. Right so yeah, those are gloves. So it's hard to shoot a gun with those type of gloves on.
North Face gloves.
So those are real thick, right?
Yes, but you're gonna stick your finger in the trigger well of a 9mm with those gloves on. Okay, copy that.
And so then you see the police. I guess that's one of them running through them. Then those are the other military
right there.
Assassins.
Why assassins? Why chasing? They taking cover. Look at this one over here. He taking cover, trying to find another way to go around there.
Yeah, because
there's vehicle number 2.
In the video, they say one of them did go around to another police.
But you never see that. Yeah, we got that video came from the city.
All right, so we're gonna stop sharing that. And
North Face gloves on, UGG slippers, and a smell-proof backpack on his back, but he had baggies of marijuana in his trunk. Come on, man.
And so also let me let y'all hear this conversation real quick. I gotta let y'all hear this conversation, and then we'll continue to let you tell the story. Okay, here it is right here.
Okay.
And he is an actual service member, right?
Yeah, that's what they said. They confirmed it and had his ID and all that, and only for the fact. And the whole thing, what was going to happen originally is that he showed up and he has his plates expired or some registration expired. They were just going to cite him and tow his vehicle. Well, when they found his vehicle, the guy I spoke with said that they were just going to write cites, and I guess he had already called a buddy to come and pick him up. Well, he was already getting agitated and mad that he had to wait there. So I guess when they were doing an inventory check before they impounded his vehicle, they found the marijuana. At that point, they said, okay, yeah, you're detained now, man. You're not going nowhere. And that's whenever he took off from his buddy's vehicle. They came to pick him up, and they ended up following him over here. And I don't know if you saw the gas line that was leaking.
Yeah, he kind of up in that corner.
He was up in that corner, and they were all behind that vehicle on this side. And the guy I spoke with said that he saw him racket, and he's like, I'm not going to jail for this and that. And
what's up,
he fired first.
I got a few more details about my side of the story that I need to share with your officer who was taking my statement before.
Okay.
I didn't catch her name. Where is she?
Well, he's the primary officer.
All right, so I'm gonna stop it right there for now, because what that guy is finna tell you is almost an admission of what they did to that son. And I'm gonna address that issue in a separate video because I want to focus on that and that alone in that video. But so after, I guess, so what are they saying as far as you have learned, Sean, about that actual encounter right there after they chased them? What have you learned?
So basically what they did was they cornered him off at the one photo where you have his body redacted. That photo there. So they pulled up, both SUVs pulled up over there. My son was in front of the car, and I don't know if it was 3 on 3, 3 on the passenger side and 3 on the driver's side. But like I explained earlier, We don't have that because the Taco Bell footage, we got 2 cameras that's in that website as well of the Taco Bell footage, and all the Taco Bell footage shows is them huddled up prior to the police getting there immediately after the shooting. Once again, by the time the first cop, so my son ran out the gate approximately 1:43. Okay. So approximately 1:43. By 1:47 in the first dispatch call, you can hear them yelling, suspect down, suspect down. So my son trying to turn himself into the local PD, you didn't even give him time. He's de-escalating. In America right now, in 2025, it's about de-escalation and life-saving measures. They didn't use any de-escalation. They attempted to beat me down via that Zoom call yesterday talking about self-defense. Where was the self-defense? Where was he aggressive at any time? And we don't have no proof that he produced that weapon. Zero proof that he produced that weapon. That weapon could have been in the same part of the bag where the knife was at. Albuquerque's a dangerous town. My son is in music studios out there in that town. It's a dangerous town. So why would you have articles to protect yourself?
And he was trying to turn himself into the Albuquerque police because,
yes,
as you stated, there was some form of hazing or antagonization towards your son,
right,
from the military personnel, whom he actually used to work with. I think you said he used to actually work at that gate.
Yes, sir. He was security force as well. That hasn't been mentioned in 10 months. Not one article, the Air Force saying nothing. He was security forces too. He knew the rules and the regulations too. He worked that same gate. That was the gate that he worked prior to them pulling him off his detail. And the only yes.
Go ahead.
No, the only thing that they was talking about was stuff from the past, but nothing about this incident. All their newspaper articles is general on this incident, but they get in detail on his past, the past year and a half, the failed marijuana test in February 2024. That's all they talk about. They don't talk about the incident.
So go ahead.
This is his license plate right there from his car. Okay, May 2024. These tags been expired since May of 2024. Okay, he was home for his baby being born in May of 2024. He went back September 2024. So from September 8th of 2024 all the way to approximately 120 something February 22nd, 2025. These plates been expired. Why today? Why February 22nd? He been coming in and out that base daily. Why February 22nd? The most you could have done with expired tags, Mr. Teel, go ahead and park that vehicle over in the visitor center and walk in. This was a lynching.
Definitely.
This was a lynching of my son on his birthday. The most disrespectful thing you can do to parents. And then you lied. We had to find out from a friend of his that our son was dead. I woke up in the middle of the night, 3:26 New Jersey time, and text my son for his birthday. Because at the time I was working night shift. So me and my son would always FaceTime 1-2 o'clock in the morning. I'm texting him, happy birthday, son. I read the text message at his funeral. No response. So me and my wife, we go over to McGuire Air Force Base to the commissary to go food shop, and here it is, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and Brion still haven't responded. They're supposed to have 12 hours to tell the family. 12 hours. I take a nap, and when I wake up out my nap, I call my oldest daughter. We talking, hey, you heard from Brion? It's birthday. Nah, Dad, he hasn't responded. I'm about to give him a call. Next thing you know, after I wake up out my nap, I hop on Facebook. One of his friends who I've only met on FaceTime calls with my son calls me to tell me, hey, Mr. Scott, can I reach out to you? Absolutely. Here's my number. As soon as I answer the daggone telephone call, her voice is quivering. I call them. She gives me the number. I call them. And instead of telling me any information about my son, the first thing out their mouth is, who called you, Mr. Scott? I said, sir, that doesn't matter. I need to know the welfare of my son. Oh, let me call you back. They call me back 15 minutes later. As soon as I say hello, well, Mr. Scott, we'd like to help you, but we'd like to know how'd you find out about the situation? Who reached out to you? I said, sir, you mistaken. I speak English. I only speak one language. The only language I speak is English, sir. And I don't care about that. I need to know about the health of my son. Then you tell me, and then your service people don't show up to my door until almost 6 o'clock at night. I tell them from the ring camera, I'm at his mother's house with everybody else that's gathered over there to mourn this loss. And when they come to Bordentown, which is another suburb, they send the cops. The cops come before the Air Force come to make the notification. You guys are the one that's negligent. You guys are the one that's negligent. If everything was above board and the I's was dotted and the T's crossed, there wouldn't have been nothing to hide. But it wasn't. They lynched my son in cold blood in 2025. This country been here since 1776. Ain't nothing like this happened on this soil. And they did all them daggone disparaging remarks in them first couple articles to keep the national media out the daggone case. They know what they did.
They always criminalize the victim. That's the first step. Well, why? Oh, he had marijuana. He was running. He had expired tags. All of that is sort of, the protocol for these type of situations to get people to say, oh, well, yeah, he deserved that. Don't quit. So what did they tell you when they did initially, speak to you about what happened?
It was very general. Basically nothing at all. Your son is dead. An incident happened. He ran off base. And it's an ongoing investigation. It's been an ongoing investigation until this day.
So we're coming up on 10 months.
10 months. So basically, ongoing investigation, and we can't answer none of your questions. Somebody will be in contact with you. Okay, copy that. Instead of sitting back and waiting on them, I flew out there. Me and my friends, like I said, it was 7 of us out there. 5 of us was former law enforcement. Former military. And so you have both sides. And then you have my 2 brothers. They're not law enforcement, but they went out there to go over the scene and keep things from a different perspective. We went out there. We was professional to the Air Force, but we were never given that professionalism back. And that was the number one reason I sent my son to the Air Force. Okay, they ain't fighting no battles. They fight everything from the air. Mm-hmm. They ain't ground pounding. They ain't putting no packs on their back. We talking, and then to go back into the shooting. What was their sight picture? We're all taught. Know where these bullets is going. Know what's behind your target. They didn't do that. You wouldn't have hit that gas line. You wouldn't have pumped 3 bullets into a civilian apartment door. Where they charges at for that? That's negligence right there. Your sight picture. Over 80 bullets. For what? There's no evidence that gun was produced fired to their first shot. 0. But dead man can't tell no tales. So it's their narrative. But how can their integrity be trusted when you're on body cam footage and police reports lying, attempting to change your story? Your mind is fresh. And then the cops kept trying to separate, and they kept still trying to get together. When the first cop came on the scene, they was across the street from the Taco Bell getting their story together. And the guy who said was shot, his hand is already bandaged. But y'all don't go do CPR on a person with bullet holes in them. The rules is you do CPR until a licensed EMT come to relieve you. You doing chest compressions until they come. You doing breaths until they come. And you get relieved. It was none of that. It was no first aid. But this guy with a friendly fire graze wound, it was a graze wound to the hand. His hand is already bandaged by 1:50 when the first cop, 1:50 a.m. when the first cop get up on the scene. His hand is bandaged. And y'all tell the cops, oh, he dead. How do you know he's dead?
Yeah, and I've actually watched like the footage from when they first walk up on the body. There was no life-saving measures. Like I said, I wish I could play it, but what they did was turn them over and handcuff them. That was their first method. Like when they got up there, or when their body cameras first. Because I want you to tell about what Sergeant Fraser said next, but they turn them over. They handcuff. Well, no, we got to get them out of the way now because they hit a gas lane. So you'll see them picking them up, and they take them away from the gas main to lay them on the streets. They did take his shirt off. He was, he had a lot. He had some wounds, and then they didn't really. I didn't see him doing no chest compressions or nothing. They were just kind of cutting. They cut all of his clothes off, and then you just see him standing there, like they were standing there looking at. There was no medical attention provided, and I see that in the body cam footage. Hopefully, I can show that in a way that it's not too explicit to let you guys show that in later videos. But like I told my brother Sean, I'm gonna break down all this footage because I think this is something that needs to be known. But go ahead with what Frazier said in his reports.
So this guy tells the cop, yeah, he's one of ours. So yeah, we shot him. So basically, he told the cops, okay, that my son, who already has a bullet wound in the stomach, that we went over to his body, kicked the alleged gun out his hand, and he went to stand up, and they pumped over 15 rounds into his back. Face down on the ground, laying down on the ground, you pump 15 shots in his back, unarmed.
He said
no threat. He said that to the cops. And didn't get arrested.
After he admitted to kicking the gun away.
Yes. And even the lieutenant states that the gun was secured prior to the second round of shots. We don't know when the gun was produced. And if you look at the gun in the crime scene photos, it looked brand new out the box. Where's the gas? Where's the dried up gas from the gun from the rounds being fired, allegedly? It's supposed to be gas. When I shoot my gun, there's dried up gas outside the muzzle. There's no gas. There's no GSR on his hands. There's no GSR on his gloves. When did he shoot? When was the gun produced? The gun wasn't produced. He didn't give him time. As he was giving up, you heard a click and started pumping rounds at him. And so I don't get. But then you tell me that there's no justification for a murder or a manslaughter charge. The man just admitted to murder to the police. I asked them. I was in a 58-minute Zoom call with the Office of Special Trial Counsel yesterday. Okay, they state that they couldn't they didn't see evidence of manslaughter or murder when the guy admitted to murder to the police, but they said self-defense. How's it self-defense? So they have this thing called COI. It's operational. Mr. Teller, man, I'm looking.
Go ahead.
But basically,
what does it mean?
It's basically something that they use to justify killings. They try to predict what the assailant or the perpetrator is thinking prior to them making their action. That's what they use to get security forces off of incidents like this. You have to attempt is KOI. That's the initials, KOI. And they're supposed to predict, we don't know for sure, but he might shoot, so we're going to shoot first. But you can't justify deadly force. There's no de-escalation. They skipped. And this gentleman had the audacity to talk to me about totality of circumstances. Like, that's not a word that I haven't been hearing for 20 years. Totality of circumstances is the entire actions of what led up to the shooting. You don't have justification to use deadly force if he didn't fire around at y'all or at them. Okay, so you're basically saying we think he was going to shoot, but you said, Lieutenant, that you didn't see a gun. But you heard a click. You can't fire around off of those type of assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody's dead, they can't rebut what you're saying. They can't rebut. They can't rebut what you're saying. They had no justification. They didn't have no less than lethal. No tasers on them. That's supposed to be on their uniform. Non-lethal. No non-lethal rounds. So that would be considered no mechanical force, no pepper spray. They're one of the only services that still don't have body cameras. I think the Army MPs and the Marine MPs have body cameras. They don't have body cameras. And on that apartment that they shot into, which would have they had a Ring camera. All of a sudden that Ring camera's broke. The Ring camera would have seen everything. The Ring camera's broke. I asked about that after I saw the crime scene photos. No Ring camera. They chased my son down for nothing. Who dies in America in 2025 over marijuana and an expired license plate?
And so all the whole judicial process that you was just talking about was from the military standpoint, right?
Yes, sir. No, so basically,
the Albuquerque Police Department was on the scene too. And so what is, I guess, the Albuquerque DA or even if they are involved?
I'm going to recite to you what was in the first two articles in the Albuquerque Journal. They basically said that they was fighting over jurisdiction. Okay, so the night in question, the Albuquerque PD was leading the investigation all the way up to about 5 or 6 hours later. The FBI came on the scene. Okay, the FBI came on the scene, took over the investigation. Allegedly, 2 of the shooters was arrested. Albuquerque PD was arresting 2 of the shooters.
Okay.
The FBI came on the scene, had them guys released. This was what was reported in the newspaper. Okay, FBI took over the scene and gave it to OSI, the Air Force investigators, in less than 24 hours to investigate themselves. Okay, now from what the family know, from what his mom said and what his friend said, and there's even a Instagram voicemail that sent to one of his friends that sent to me that my son made complaints against the OSI to EEOC, which is a federal entity. They claimed to the press that my son didn't have anything filed against anyone. Okay, his mom told me later on after his death that sometimes my son was sleeping in his car because he had the feeling that his dorm room was bugged. He's sleeping in his car in the military.
That's what who said?
That's what his mother said.
Okay.
That's what his mother said, and that's what one of his friends said. One of his friends was just with us through the Thanksgiving holiday with the family.
You said that he had filed a complaint against the OSI. Now, who is the OSI?
OSI is the investigator. They're like internal affairs for the Air Force.
So he had filed a complaint against them prior to this incident.
Yes, and they
so he felt like he was being retaliated against.
He was being harassed.
Okay,
he was being harassed, and there's supposed to be some EEOC complaints against OSI and some folks in his leadership. I'm not sure Sergeant Frazier was one of them, but it's my understanding he's the one that started this entire incident.
He started this. Frazier.
And if he had any personal issues, he should have recused himself off of it, especially when it went off base. They did what they wanted to do. There's no de-escalation. Everything in law enforcement in this day and age is about de-escalation. There was zero de-escalation. If anyone de-escalated, it was my son. And they chose not to accept his de-escalation. So if he run out that base approximately 1:43 a.m., by 1:47 they on the radios yelling suspect down. The first officer get there at 1:50. What's wrong with waiting for 17 minutes in the interest of life-saving measures? Why couldn't he turn himself into the local PD? Everything that he have and own is on that base. All his clothes in the dorm room, and you have his car. Why couldn't he wait to turn himself in for Albuquerque PD?
So he was staying still on the base?
Yes.
Okay.
His clothes, all his belongings. And then the Air Force lied in the press, talking about my son was scheduled to get out the service February 26th. That was a lie. You ever see the movie A Few Good Men? What they say? The guy had nothing packed. He didn't make one phone call. My son was my best friend. His oldest sister is his best friend. She didn't know he was coming home the Sunday after his birthday. They sent 30 boxes to my garage in June of all his property. None of that stuff was packed in February to go. None of it. He didn't call his mother. This kid spends every Sunday on the phone with his mother almost 6 hours watching football, talking to his mom. They both Dallas Cowboy fans. He spends almost every Sunday on the phone with his mom 5-6 hours discussing nothing in the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. This is what this kid does. So you mean to tell me he getting out 2 days after his birthday, nothing's packed in his room. TMO is a professional moving company that the military uses. Brion didn't contact TMO to come scoop up his stuff. Nothing. Everything that they said is lies. Everything. And then you're going to sit here and tell me to my ear that you don't have justification to file manslaughter charges or murder. And I told them none of them got on camera either of the Zoom call. I was the only one on camera for the Zoom call. I had a major and a lieutenant colonel. Neither one of them got on camera. So I spoke to a blank screen while they got to watch me. And I told them to their faces that they lack integrity and they lack professionalism. Because there's no way from the so-called totality of the circumstance you could tell me that you can't find manslaughter. It's voluntary manslaughter, just you guys not knowing where y'all bullets is going, shooting at that gas line, shooting those rounds into those civilian people's door. That's voluntary manslaughter right there. But you're going to tell me self-defense. Where was my son the aggressor at any time? He never turned around. My son ran a 4.43 40. He's on that footage you just saw. He's barely jogging. He wasn't running like his life was in danger. He wasn't running like he started international. He wasn't running with secrets to a nuclear base. So why is even the pursuit? Why is that pursuit? He come back tomorrow to try to sneak in the base to get his dorm to go in his dorm room. But he wanted to turn himself into the PD. Why couldn't he turn himself into the PD? That makes no sense to me. In the era of de-escalation and life-saving measures, where is that? And you're going to tell me self-defense. If anybody needs self-defense, it was my son. Y'all chased him 6-on-1. 6-on-1 with high velocity blood spatter on y'all boots, up close and personal, shooting into my son back. For what?
Let me see if I can pull those up as well, because those are real.
And then on top of that, Mr. Teller, like we were saying earlier, they investigated my son. They immediately after the killing, the first thing that the OSI investigators did was go to his room and secure his iPad and his laptop, which had nothing to do with the incident. They wasn't in the vehicle. They went to his room and took his iPad and laptop, to which the family still doesn't have to this day. And then while I was out there in New Mexico, 2 days or 3 days after the shooting, they were on my son's Instagram page live, and the family got screenshots along with me. Why are y'all on my son's Instagram account? So when I talked to the investigator that Wednesday morning, because I got there Tuesday night, he tells me that hasn't happened. I said, sir, listen, sir. I said, not for nothing. And that was the first time that I told him that I was in town. I said, my man, I was just on Instagram. I have the screenshots of your people. I don't know who it was, but I got screenshots of my son's account being live 11 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, an hour ago. The family have screenshots of his account being live. So y'all checking into his Instagram account for what? He wasn't a terrorist. He didn't have secrets to that base. And to this day, I haven't gotten an answer for why the laptop and the iPad was taken out of his room. Okay, I can understand you keeping the phone, but where's the laptop at? Where's the iPad at? Why do y'all still have that? How's that part of the investigation? It wasn't in the vehicle. It wasn't on this person. You investigated the victim. And I told them yesterday on the Zoom call too that this wasn't an impartial investigation. And how can you take these guys' word for it when the body cam footage doesn't match the police written report? Where's their integrity at? And the military is supposed to be based on integrity, honor, courage, commitment. Where is that? Where is your courage? They had no courage. They wanted to murder my son. This was a lynching. In 2025, they did what they wanted to do. The son didn't have his third eye going to see the fix before it kicked in.
And so the article, one other article I found had a lawyer speaking about it. He was speaking about the fact that your son was trying to surrender when they shot him. Now I know that was probably right after the incident, but is he still helping, and what has he been able to do?
Okay, so basically, Mr. Teller, what they did was, that's another thing that I forgot to talk to you about, but we'll get back to that. So what they did was they used they used the FBI, and Albuquerque didn't fight for the investigation. So basically, they separated the investigation into two entities. So basically, the Air Force controls the criminal side, while the lawyer and the family only thing that we're left to do is sue civil. And then they have this thing called the Ferris Doctrine, FERES, that's been around since the Civil War era, which almost gives the military a blanket immunity to do whatever the hell they want on American soil. So we're going to have to fight against the Ferris Doctrine, and on the civil side.
Okay, but I do want to highlight this right here because this is something you pointed out, and I think it's very relevant. Now, this is one of the officers after the shooting. Now, this is I don't even remember his name, but you see him from top to bottom in his military gear. But take a close look at his boots.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to show you a zoomed in. If you look at his boots, that is, as my brother Sean told me, high velocity blood splatter. Now let's zoom in a little bit. Let's zoom in on those boots real quick. Hopefully this saved. All right, so yeah, let's zoom in right here. Now look at that.
Yeah. Yes,
look at those boots.
That's my son. That's blood of my son all over. And you can't get high velocity blood spatter unless you're in close proximity when you're shooting. They were shooting down at my son while he was face down on the ground into his back.
While they were standing pretty much over him for them to get that much blood splatter on their shoes.
Yes, sir.
And
yes, sir.
It's not only him, it's every picture that you see in the thumbnail of those people shot him. All of their boots are like that.
Yep, except for the lieutenant and the female. And the female and her police report stated that she saw 10 muzzle flashes from my son's gun. Where's your integrity at? Where's your integrity?
But nobody else substantiates that.
No one else said that. Yeah, you saw 10 muzzle flashes from my son towards y'all, and you started shooting into the threat was gone. That was quoted her words.
That's what she said.
That's what she said. Yes.
But all of them shot, because in the video you hear the guy say, "Well, all of us shot, sir."
Yes. Over 80 rounds. Over 80 rounds. Man, they had I don't know who was shooting from the sidewalk, but there's Taco Bell. One of them cones have a shell casing at the Taco Bell. At the top. Now I don't know if that was kicked over there because there was no crime scene integrity. There was no crime scene integrity. They're going to blame it on the gas leak, but there was zero crime scene integrity. Zero. You got my son wallet and stuff in the rear of the car, where all the backpack and everything else is in the front of the car. We can't get anything as far as recreating the scene because they attempted to cover all their tracks. Is the moral of the story. They attempted to cover all their tracks.
They had to be separated several times because all six of them were pretty much in a huddle talking about what are they going to say.
I have a also in my notes here, my son on his person, he had a business card from the Inspector General of Complaints on the base. Okay, I reached out to this young lady, and I told her that I found a business card from my son in his property, and she stated to me after she checked her schedule, she said any Wednesday appointments are walk-in. It was for Wednesday, February 26th at noon. She said that's her walk-in time. She said that handwriting on the back of that card is hers. Who was my son going to the Inspector General to complain about? He never got a chance to go to the Inspector General and make that complaint. They couldn't silence my son. My son was outspoken. Okay, maybe he lacked the discipline for the military. I get that. Mm-hmm. But he still knew his rights. He was no dummy. And like I said, he was an upcoming music artist. He had a concert that he was supposed to open for in California in March. Since his death, a couple days after his death, I got 30 unreleased songs that he was working on from September up until the time of his death. He's supposed
Have you listened to him?
Every last one of them. That's his last words. That's the only words I got.
Does it speak of anything codifying, or you know how people drop hints about what they're going through? Does it speak about any of his
Yes,
trials
sir.
that he may have been going through with these people?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He was Brion been writing poetry since he was in 6th or 7th grade. So he knew how to put words together. When you listen to his music, it's very believable. Like I said, he has 12 songs on iTunes, and like I said, I have another 30 plus songs unreleased that's on the laptop that I'm speaking to you from right now.
How'd you get those?
Those was from a friend out there. One of the producers out there that he was working with. He owned all the masters of his music, and like I said, he was releasing a music video the night of his birthday, and that got sent to me as well. And I mean, just his progression from where he started to where he ended, man. And not for nothing, I'm not Mr. Teller. I'm not just on your podcast talking just about my son. You know, there's young black boys that can. It's been black people in this United States military from its inception, going all the way from Crispus Attucks all the way up to the death of my son. Crispus Attucks, the first black male dead in battle in combat. You know, his father serving in the Marines, in the infantry. I wasn't a reservist.
That's
like
you, right?
That's
You
me.
also served in the service.
I served in the Marines. I have over 2 years of overseas time, Liberia, Kosovo. So, you know, I've been around. So, you know, so for me to direct my son into the military, it was only just to show him, like, brother, it's never over. Any of your trials and tribulations. No one from where I'm from wanted to be a father or tried to be fathers. I learned this on my own. Raising my brother.
Your father wasn't present, right?
No, sir. No, sir. And we didn't have a father in the house. It was my mom in the projects with 5 boys, and she worked. I took care of my brothers. I couldn't play sports, right? I used to tell my son, listen, my man, listen, you don't have no kids. You know, enjoy your life. That's what my son was a partier. Everyone that knew my son loved him. If you didn't like Brion, the problem was with you. He have a slick mouth. All the kids do. But he wasn't malicious. He's talked friends out of suicides. He's helping. My son was great. You know what I mean? So, okay, the military ain't work out. You don't kill him. You just kick him out.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have a criminal record prior to. You know what I mean? His first 2 years in the Air Force was basically perfect. So what happened? Where did the change come?
Mm-hmm.
A change in leadership. And then when you get leadership, you know, that's opposite of your demographic, opposite of what you believe in. Okay, the military is full of different cultures, a melting pot. You know, in the Marines, you know, we get along because your life is on the line every time. See, and that's another thing we're working in law enforcement, too. You know, law enforcement get a bad rap, and I know that the Air Force is trying to use that thin blue line or whatever the case may be. But when your life is on the line, you have to trust the man to your left or your right, regardless what your views are. That's why I said, man, we got a lot of young black boys that don't want to go to college and go into the military. And we got stuff like this happening. You know, where is every battle from the Civil War to every war, there's been black men on that battle. And you mean to tell me that you go volunteer for service? We keep forgetting about this. All these minions in the comments and talking all that nonsense. We volunteer for service while people still sitting on the couch. 90% of this country don't volunteer for service. So you have that 10% that volunteer for service. And this
I got to read this one. Sir, thank you, Mike TV 999 for your super chat. Sir, thank you for your service. I'm sorry for your loss. Taylor House, thank you for the great work you do for the community. And I certainly thank you, Mike TV 999.
Yeah, Mike TV 999. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
And I appreciate all of y'all in this chat as well for listening to my brother. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to read that because that was very generous for my brother.
Yeah, let me go through my notes here, make sure that I didn't forget anything, man. But you know, like I said, you know, my son wasn't a threat to these people. He still volunteer service. And you got these guys in the comments with their Twitter fingers that never served anything, never stood on anything. He volunteered.
Don't pay no attention to those comments.
I don't.
Yeah, but I know it's hard sometimes to not see what they're talking about.
I'm just pressing the point that it's still a certain number of demographic in this country that don't volunteer for service.
And someone asked, does your family have Cash App?
No, like I was trying to explain to some of the podcasters that I reached out to, it's never been about money. The family, we didn't ask nobody for a dime. And my son is buried. His headstone is up. Me and his mom, we took care of him.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I never asked nobody,
It ain't about that.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I didn't want to make it about money. I talked to these people on Twitter lives and stuff like that, and people I didn't know where to point you in the right direction. I didn't know what direction to point the people in because I was still trying to do things the right way. Everything since my son's death, I've kept race out of it. I kept unprofessionalism out of it. They sent the guy, a liaison of the Air Force, to be with the family up until the time that we were doing all the funeral arrangements and everything. They took care of a portion, you know what I mean, of my son's burial and stuff like that. We treated this guy with total respect. We had him in Trenton. We treated him with total respect every day he was out here. We was never unprofessional. No one ever talked crazy to him, nothing. We treated him almost like a piece of family, and he wearing the damn uniform that murdered my son. Mm-hmm. We kept everything, and I made sure as the leader of my family, I made sure that we kept everything above board, and we were professional with integrity. Y'all murdered my son, and I still when I went on that base to talk to them people, it was always professional. Always maintain. When you sit there and you lying in my face, and I know you lying in my face, I was still professional. Definitely. And that haven't wavered. I talked to these people while they lied to me on the Zoom call yesterday, and I was still professional. But I told them they lack integrity. When you swear to that flag, the first damn thing you're supposed to do is start working on your integrity. Forget who you was as a civilian. When you swear to that flag, it's about integrity. It's about professionalism. It's about protecting your country and fighting for your country. But you shoot over 80 bullets at someone that volunteered for service with you. You're a coward. They're cowards. You're going to shoot a guy in some UGG slippers. What kind of threat are you on in some UGG slippers? He didn't pose no threat. He attempted to de-escalate when it was your job. This is why the military has no business in the civilian world. How are you going to act as local law enforcement when you don't know the rules? Because if you knew the rules, the young man would have had CPR done on him. It would have been de-escalation. You would let him come out when he put his hands up to come out. You didn't do that. They're cowards. They did what they wanted to do. They wanted to lynch my son.
And that's what I say as well with military and law enforcement, because there's two different things. Military is for basically war. So you got those guys with the military mindset coming into communities that they don't have any connection to. And then their first thing is like, okay, well, we went to Iraq like this. We got to occupy these people. And if they don't do what they tell us to do, then we kill them. And that's what I see a lot of times. One more time, I do got to read this super chat from my brother Mike TV 999. Big facts. Native Americans have fought in every armed conflict our country has had since the American Revolution. Pops is simply trying to spread awareness, and I commend that.
Yeah. And that's what my son called me. That's my nickname from my son. That's what my son called me, Pops. And all the kids and his friends, man, they all call me Pops, man. We had after the funeral, we had a birthday party for him here, man. I never had so many people at my house, and they were still trying to party at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? I'm 50, man. I can't hang out. You know what I mean, with you young folks, man. You know what I mean? You know, my son was a partier. My son was a good time. It was nothing malicious about my son. Zero. My son had a heart of gold. He knew how to defend himself, but he was raised by a Marine. Okay. And someone in law enforcement. He was raised with respect. He knew respect. If he met you, Mr. Teller, he would give you a firm handshake and look you directly in your eye. Yes, sir. No, sir. That's who Brion was. Not this person they attempted to portray.
Big Zero. Facts. Appreciate you, Mike.
Appreciate you, Mike. You know what I mean?
Man, it's so much to this story. And like I told my brother Sean before we called, I said, I'm going to keep this as an ongoing subject, because there's so much to these videos. I showed you a little bit of the videos, but this camera footage, these police reports, all substantiate what my brother Sean is saying. So I'm going to start breaking these things one by one. There's definitely some coercion, some cover up, and it's like the other brother who got shot by military, or he was found outside of a military base, and this was recent. I forgot what he was, a young black brother. It was just so vague on how they portray these incidents. So
man, Mr. Teller, man, they had a suspicious drowning of a 24-year-old black male in Albuquerque that belonged to that base, and not for nothing. It was my understanding from the person that called me to notify me about my son's death that her and my son was in an illegal solitary confinement on the base. I can't remember if it was a traffic incident or not. They were the base is being investigated around the time of my son's death.
Okay.
And his friend, she doesn't have a problem with coming and talking publicly. She just waiting for our lawyers to contact him. But our lawyer is out of Philadelphia, Mr. Joe Marone. On my TikTok page is a video of him, and I spoke to him today. But basically when they and I failed to mention this. Okay, so our last article with the Albuquerque Journal in August, alongside the story, that's when the editor in charge wrote that last story. I don't know if Matt, the editor in charge, but he's the editor. His last story, coincidentally, the Air Force had a change of command over on Kirkland Air Force Base right prior to the 4th of July. And this new base commander gave the city of Albuquerque $7 billion. What does that tell? I mean, I don't know the budget, but from Kirkland Air Force
$7
Base,
million?
$7 billion with a B.
$7 billion.
$7 billion. And it's in the article, Albuquerque Journal. If you go on the Kirkland Files website, in the last news article, all the way at the bottom where the news articles is at, that same article, that same day was my son's story, where the title is, I think he said, Air Force personnel didn't see a gun. Well, that same day of that article, they also had an article from Kirkland Air Force Base, where Kirkland Air Force new base commander gave the city of Albuquerque $7 billion.
And so that is probably why.
$7 billion. And then I have the gentleman that started the Kirkland Files page that I sent you. He doesn't know me and my son from a can of paint. He was upset. His wife was a medic on that base.
So how did he know about the situation? Through his wife?
Through the newspaper and through his wife.
And so he gathered all that information.
A civilian. Don't know me or my son from a can of paint.
Shout out to the Kirkland Files if you're listening,
yes,
man.
Sir.
I really appreciate the work you did, because we're going to dive deep into that information, because there's so much information.
Yeah. I know you're probably preparing to go, but like I said, this guy doesn't know me or my son from a can of paint. He's still suing the city now, the city of Albuquerque. He putting his name out there, his address out there. That man has a family, and he's still suing the city for information pertaining to my son's case. He says it's still more body cam footages out there.
Oh, okay. So that's what he's doing.
Yes,
okay.
and he also said that there are some emails from the base to the police chief, and he says that those emails are public record. How he know about the emails, I don't know, but he's been suing the city to get a copy of those emails.
Because there's got to be, like I said, that's probably why the city was so quick to hand it over to the military, because hey, you guys paid for the right to, all right, y'all stay out of this. We just gave y'all $7 billion. Y'all stay out of it. We got it.
It's right there in black and white in print. I ain't making up nothing. Yeah, it's right there in black and white in print. Everything that I've spoken to you today, Mr. Teller, is public record. You know what I mean? It's public record. There's no secrets. They murdered my son. You know what I mean? As a tidbit, I know we're getting close to closing the show, but in an upcoming New Jersey primary, I'm running for Congress, so the 3rd district of New Jersey. I'm running for Congress. Okay. I've already started receiving donations, and it's just another avenue. So one thing I was raised up with, you got to have a plan A, B, or C. And I don't care win, lose, or draw, the nation gonna know my son, and they're gonna know my values.
Hey,
And I'm going and I'm attempting to protect every black boy that decides to volunteer for service and join the military. There needs to be some type of civilian oversight. You know what I mean? In cases
definitely.
like this, because why do you guys? Where's the integrity? Once again, why do you guys get to investigate yourselves?
Civilian oversight, just like the police, they do have like civilian, civilian
Right.
committees or whatever.
Why not have a team of 3 lawyers? You got 2 people make a decision. One person's a tiebreaker. You have 3 civilian lawyers. Now somebody might steal my idea here, but whatever. It's probably been brought up in the past, but it's whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm running for Congress.
And so when does that election start? Next year?
Well, basically, in the interest of the holidays, I'm not trying to beat anyone down yet. The family and friends and the volunteers, I'm going to wait till after the holidays. But it's just another avenue that I'm attempting to seek. Once again, to protect the people that wants to join the military, but also, the people in New Jersey. We got a lot of quiet leadership here. You know what I mean? And, and these people, there's no true leadership. You have people in positions, but there's no leadership. There's no leadership.
I
you know
understand
what I mean?
exactly what you said.
No one wants to be an oddball out and put their agenda in place and about protecting the people. What about the people? What about the people? You can't just be someone that show up when it's time to go into election. Okay, we want to go into black church, send a Democrat into the black church when it's election time. Well, my man, where you at the other days of the year? Where you at when somebody going through an emergency like what I'm going through? I reached out to some politicians, and you know what? I didn't realize that they didn't have voicemails in 2025. I reached out to some politicians, and the phone rang 25, 30 times. It rang until I decided to hang up. I reached out to some politicians, prior to this, back in June, back in August. Man, my whole son's story has been going ignored for the better part of 10 months. And that's why I'm so thankful to you for reaching out and doing that YouTube video and everything. Listen, man, I couldn't wait. I got to find a phone number for this gentleman. And then when I see what you're doing with the youth down there in North Carolina, man, listen, this the perfect union. This will not be our last conversation.
Oh yeah, definitely. I got you locked in.
Yes, sir.
I got you locked in. So yeah, so because it's so much to the story, we're gonna bring my brother back. But if you are in you in Trenton, right?
Yeah. I'm in the suburbs now.
Suburb. Okay.
I'm born and raised in Trenton, but the third congressional district is all of Burlington County and the northern portion of Monmouth County. So, like I said, after the holidays, I'm gonna try to get my volunteers. I'm gonna try to, get my son friends, my daughter friends out there, knock on some doors, get these signatures. I already started receiving some donations when I put the page out there. So I'm just trying to do the best that I can. You know what I mean? Once again, the fight for the people, the fight for the kids. You know what I mean? I'm a fighter. I'm a leader. You know what I mean? I didn't need the Marines to teach me how to be a leader. Like I said, I'm the oldest of 5 boys. I raised my brothers. You know what I'm saying? So I knew leadership at age 7. I was ironing creases and pants at age 7, lining them seams up. You know what I'm saying? Ironing creases. So when it comes to leadership, and I got a story, I don't just want to use my son's story as cachet, but it's for the other people that are up there, to listen to. Like this guy got a story. This guy's a leader. You know what I mean? And I can't be compromised. I'm not going to shake a man and shake his hand and then look in his face and lie to him. It's about leadership here. It's about leading from the front, being a man of the real people. You know what I mean? I know I'm a rookie going into politics, but I don't care.
That's what they need, though. People don't need a politician. They need a servant. You said it earlier best. You said I've been in public service for 25 years.
25 years public service.
So that's what we need, not politicians or leaders, but a servant. But even the scripture says the greatest of you would serve.
That's right.
In order to to be a leader, you must first serve. So, and I commend you. I see it all over you. I see you in that position right now.
Brother.
You know what I mean? I see that just because of your uncompromising demeanor. But also, like you said, it's not about the wrong thing, because you'll be surprised how many people like yourself who have lost someone, or who is going through something, but make it about the financials. You know, make sure you send my cash out. Make sure we set up this, we set up that, we set up that. So that just let me know. Soon as that person asked in the comments, she was like, "Nah, that's not what this about." You know what I'm saying? So
I never, Mr. Teller, I never asked the people for a dime. That was my son.
Yeah,
that was my son. He was his mother's child, but he was my son.
I like that.
You know what I'm saying? He was his mother's child, but he was my son. You know what I mean? And I went through the fire with my boy to raise him in my image.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And any of his friends will tell you he laughed like me, he talked like me, everything about him was his dad. But he even said it in one of his songs. I'm just like my pop, just a little more wild. And that was factual. You know?
Hey,
that
look,
was
you gotta send me a couple of them joints, man. So I can get the feel of them. You know what I'm saying?
His name on iTunes is Brilly the Prince. That's BRILL DA Prince, BPRINCE. Brilly the Prince on iTunes. And I'm gonna once things slow down a little more. I'm trying to compartmentalize. I got so much going in my head. I've been back to work. You know, I didn't really get time to mourn, especially losing my son and then my wife. So right after my son's death in February, and I didn't even get into the military plan with my son's body. We didn't get my son's body for almost 15 days after his death. After the day after his death, I signed paperwork with the medical examiner office telling me that his body was done. But then when I get out there in Albuquerque, when I'm there Tuesday night, but Wednesday morning, I get a text message from his mom, pissed off. They're talking about keeping his body longer for more pictures. They had his body since Saturday. So basically, the Air Force the Air Force was puppet stringing the medical examiner's office. I had
when y'all got his body, what condition was it in?
But the medical examiner, I mean, they got it straight from the street. But they sent me paperwork. The Air Force, the funeral services liaison or whatever her official title is, she sent me a form stating that my son's body was ready. She just needed my signature. That was the Monday, which would have been the 23rd, the 24th. I signed that paperwork so they can release my son's body to a local mortuary to get prepared to get shipped from Albuquerque to Philadelphia and to his family. Okay, so while I'm there that Wednesday, they canceled that, notified his mother talking about they need additional photos. You had him all day Saturday. I don't know what time his body was moved from the scene that Saturday morning, but you had his body from the time y'all moved him from the scene, probably about approximately 8 a.m., 9 a.m. He laid out there probably about 8-9 hours. You know what I mean? You know, so from that time, so you got all day Saturday, all day Sunday. I don't know if they work on Sundays. High profile case. I'm assuming they probably did. But Monday, you send the form that the body's ready to be shipped to a local mortuary. So then, so Tuesday, you got the body Tuesday. So that's, the better part of 3.5 days. So Wednesday morning, I'm getting this call that you need to keep his body. We didn't get his body until the Friday of the following week. 15 days it took to get his body. For what? They said pictures. He's laying there. I know Albuquerque's a high crime area, but he's laying there. So the Air Force continued to play games with the family and continue to disrespect his family. I got a general phone call the Thursday that I was out there from one of the base commanders, and everything was general. It was nothing. Basically, we sorry we had to kill your son. And call because they didn't answer no questions. I haven't gotten a question answered in the better part of 10 months. And I don't know why these people, once again, they're looking for the angry black man to come in there, kick the door down, yelling, cussing, kicking and scratching. Negative. It was about professionalism and it was about integrity, something that they lacked. And I told them to their face in the Zoom call yesterday, you lack it.
So the question I was asking was his body, I guess, in the condition for you guys to do your own medical examination or autopsy? Or had they already embalmed it and did things like that?
It was already embalmed by the time it got here to Jersey. So basically, some of these higher ups, you know, with their vernacular, they look at the military personnel that's their underlings as property. You know what I mean? So basically, he was property of the military. So he's still under contract. So they did what they wanted to do.
They had yours, yeah.
But like I said, you know, he had the bullet wounds. He had broken bones. He had a leg fracture, all kind of stuff through his rib.
Now, is that in the Kirkland file? Okay.
Yes, sir. It's that you know what, that may not be. That may be the medical examiner report. And if you want to copy that, I can send that to you.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I
like
mean?
I said, I'm gonna definitely dig into it.
Because before you finish, like I said, they were confused. They said they could only realistically justify the I think the 16 to 17 shots. They thought there was possibly more. So you got 4 guys standing over his body, shooting down on him, and these people gonna tell me yesterday self-defense. Where's that at? Where's the self-defense? I didn't see self-defense. So, you know, like I said, man, you know, me running for Congress, and what my purpose gonna be in life is to continue to keep my son's legacy alive and protect the black people that want to join the military and serve their country honestly. And any kid, not even just the black kids, to be honest with you. Because not for nothing, the gentleman that doesn't know me and my son from a can of paint, he's a white male. And he puts skin in the game. He don't, like I said before, I'll say it again 10,000 times. He doesn't know me and my son from a can of paint, and he's a white guy.
Just right and wrong. That's what it's about right now.
You know what I'm saying?
If you white and you for what's right, I'm with, you know, we can be together. You know what I mean?
That's all it is, man. So, you know, I don't want to keep you no longer. You know what I mean? It's 9:25.
Yeah. We got it, man. Because we can actually go all night, man. I can just listen to you talk and just be fine, my brother.
You know, I just wish, in closing, you know, besides the congressional run, man, like I said, man, I'm a man of the people. You know what I mean? And I believe in leadership from the front, man. You know what I mean? And these kids up there, you know, it was a lot of threats. You know, I couldn't get into certain other things from interviewing some of the kids, you know what I mean? Because some of them, you know, had to sign NDAs. You got you're threatening 21 and 22-year-old kids with NDAs not to talk about my son's case.
Oh, you mean the military?
Yes, sir.
So
you got 21 and 22-year-old kids. You have them signing NDAs not to talk about my son's case.
Oh yeah. Well, see, that's I mean, that's a story in itself. Don't even matter who the kids are or what. Yeah. So that's yeah. We're gonna have to get into that, man. Hey, shout out to, you know, brother Sean. Is your last name Scott or Teel?
Yes, sir. No. It's just Scott. That's
you
his mom's
Scott
name. You know, once again, like, you know, my kids. I just wanted to make sure that they had both families represented, man. You know what I mean? And, you know, all my kids, you know, from Brion's mom, they share that last name.
Okay, the Teel Scott. The Teel Scott.
Yes, sir. So my son, they just lost one of their cousins yesterday to a health issue, man. 30-something years old. He battled sickle cell. You know what I mean? So just been a lot of death, man. Like I said, you know, between February and May, my household suffered 3 deaths, man. You know, I lost my brother, man. You know what I mean? My brother was a soldier, and great people protecting another one of my brothers. You know, they was out there, you know, in the community, you know, doing what they do, you know, and brother protecting a brother. He turns around and turns back around and facing the cell and got a knife wound to the stomach. You know, so in the city of Trenton, man. So, you know, we're dealing with a lot of pain, man. But, you know, there's no giving up around here, man. We're not folding, man. We lockstep and around here, and we focus with eyes on the prize, man. You know what I mean? And Mr. Teller, I thank you. I thank you for your first video. I thank you for inviting me here tonight. You know what I mean? I thank you for answering the call when you had a 609 unknown number reaching out to you last week. You know, cool. I'm thankful, man. And then, you know, when I heard, you know, listen, man, I gotta get off the phone. I gotta tend to my daughters. That's what I'm talking about, man. You know, I don't understand. You know, I can understand the 70s and early 80s, you know, where black fathers, you know, because of certain governmental circumstances was out the house. You know what I mean? But you know, the men of my era, we tried to change the narrative, and it's escalated. You know what I mean? I'm seeing these black fathers out there, man, being in their kids' lives, man. And that's another thing, you know what I mean, that I want to get on to, is with the family court of the state. You know, you have fathers being disrespected because they don't want to be with the woman for whatever reason. It doesn't have to be negative. Why can't that man co-parent? You know what I mean? Why does it have to be something monetary? And then you get in there and you bring your paperwork, you bring your receipts, and the judge look at, that's a gift. How can I give a gift to my child? That's my child. You know what I mean? You know, the family court system in New Jersey and probably a couple other states in this country, man.
Everywhere.
You know, yeah, man. It's just disrespectful. And the black fathers, man, you know, I've always tried to change the narrative. My son was America's son. And I was a father to all his friends. Okay. Every last one of them. I was a father to all his friends. And when all his friends text my phone, they started off with the same thing my son said. Pops, how you doing? Just checking on you. It's all about Pops. I was a father to all the kids, especially the ones that didn't have fathers. I never turned my back on none of the kids. None of them. Me too. None of them. I've always been about the kids, man. You know what I mean? And that's what hurts me the most, because no one fought to be a father. I fought to be a father every day of my life. And I didn't have a rule book or anything to teach me about fatherhood. I did it on my own. I had a boatload of examples of how to do it the wrong way, and I did. I left Trenton in December of 1995, and I haven't looked back.
Hey, man, we can have a whole bunch of different conversations just off that right there, man. Yes, I commend you. I commend you for being a father. I commend you for having the courage to speak up, having the strength, you know, to even speak and get through this while you're still mourning. I don't even know if you had time to mourn, because
I've cried almost every day for 10 months.
Okay.
I ain't ashamed to admit it. My son deserved every tear. He was everything. He was everything to me. Everything. I can't even bring up his name at work. I work in a maximum security prison around killers, rapers, and robbers. And the mere mention of my son's name bring me to tears, bro. Yeah. And I got to go sit in my car. He was my man. He was my best friend. Yeah. And they stole him from me and his family, bro. And they think that it's over, but it ain't close. It ain't close to over. From the time to the time that, and I bought the plot right next to my son. I own the plot right next to him. So until I go lay next to him, his name is going to be alive, and I'm going to fight, because he's going to get the justice he deserves, bro. Yeah. Every day.
And like I said, I'm here for you. I'm definitely going to keep it, you know, I'm going to keep the story alive, because as I watch more of these videos, there are going to be a lot more that hop out to me, so I can continue to put this story out, man. But I thank you. We're gonna go ahead and end it. All of y'all in the chat, you know, please share this video, get this story out. Go to Really the Prince and look at who he was. I just found him on Instagram. If you in the Trenton, New Jersey area, if you got family, look up my brother Sean Scott as he begins the political race, and just take, you know, everything he said. Not, you know, once again, not even about his son, but about fatherhood, family, relationships, being, you know, the family dynamic, you know, being an example, being fathers to kids who don't have fathers. Everything he said has merit and value. But of course, we definitely want to keep the name of his son alive. So, you know, I didn't know about this. I don't even know. I was searching for something else when I found this story, and I did the story. But I think he had called me earlier in the year, and I think, you know, you were just calling everybody.
Yes, I was.
Do remember you calling me, and we never got back to it. But I guess, you know, everything's in God's timing. So I thank you. We gonna stay on it. I thank y'all for joining us, and give us one last word, if you would, Sean.
Hey, man, God bless you. 3rd District Congressional run. You know, Brilly the Prince. I got some more music of his that I'm going to be releasing, and like I used to tell my son after every conversation, watch your 12 o'clock, your 3 o'clock, your 6 o'clock, and your 9 o'clock. That's watch your front, watch your right, watch your left, and watch your back.
Hey.
And I told him that after every conversation, and he even put it in one of his unreleased songs that I'm going to release soon. Watch it 12, 3, 9, and 6 o'clock. Yes, sir, man. And I appreciate you, sir. Godspeed. God bless, man. You have a great night.
God bless y'all. We gonna get back with y'all later, but y'all make sure y'all tune in tomorrow because I'm gonna jump right back on this story early in the morning with what some of those killers were saying at the scene. So
Cowards.
peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.